she's faster than a fighter pilot. She says, when? Okay. So I said, will you talk to her? She says, when? Okay. So I said, anytime in February. Okay, 7. So she was that responsive. Rama and our family know each other for many, many years. I think first time we met in 2003 when Shobha was the head of urban development in Delhi. And those days, the AIDS disease was rampaging through our country. And Shobha did a big AIDS program, which the Delhi chief minister attended, Sheila Dikshit, at that time. And I think the health minister was Shatrughan Sinha. And Rama did a dance to spread the message of AIDS. And that is how Rama contributes. And she was ever willing to go to any of those street areas and red light areas to dance and spread the message on AIDS. So we kept in touch since then. And when we went to Paris, she came and she was our first guest to our home in Paris. And there she performed for the French in Paris in the Musée Guimet. And I must tell you, I've never seen a house that full, and the kind of response from the citizens in Paris. They were thunderstruck by her dance, and everybody was bravo, bravo, encore and encore. We kept in touch, and then of course she came and stayed with us in the command house in Shillong, where she gave 5 performances in Shillong. I think I'm one of the very privileged few. I was to retire about 2 months later. She did a special dance for me. It's an honor which I will never ever forget. We do meet up every December when she comes to Chennai for our dance festival. However, this time we couldn't meet. I'm so happy that we are meeting virtually. So thank you very much, Rama, for accepting to speak to us. We are looking forward to your talk. I hand over now to our Secretary Wing Commander Harshavardhan, who will introduce you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very special good morning to Rama. Special welcome to you on our show. This is something which we have started during the pandemic, and we have done about 23 shows till now. So that's a special welcome to you to our show this morning. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I give you a small introduction about Rama. Rama Vaidyanathan is one of the foremost Bharatanatyam dancers of her generation. She trained intensively under the legendary dancer Yamini Krishnamurthy and the celebrated guru Saroja Vaidyanathan. In a performance career spanning more than 30 years, Rama has developed her own individual style without forsaking the core principles of our dance form. Her technique is grounded, and yet there is a fresh approach to the innumerable dance composition that she has added to the Bharatanatyam repertoire. Having performed at every major dance venues of the world, she has been awarded several titles. The Kalai Mamani by the government of Tamil Nadu, Kalashri by the government of Kerala, and the Central Sangeet Natak Academy Puraskar are a few that I'm listing here. As director of Ganesha Natyalaya, New Delhi, she has been actively engaged in teaching for more than 25 years. Rama balances a hectic performance schedule while conducting workshops and master classes all over the world, inspiring a whole generation of dancers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Rama Vaidyanathan for all of you. Ma'am, it's all over to you. It's your show. And once you finish, we will have a question and answer session at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly mute yourself.
1 minute. Hi, Papa. Hello.
Hello. Hello, Uncle. How are you?
Very well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you.
Nice to see you, really.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, great. Was everyone all well at home?
All well at home.
Very nice. Okay, carry on. I just want to say hello to you first.
Thank you. Namaskaram to everybody. And if you wondered why I said hello to Vishwanathan uncle, because he and my father were close friends, and that is how. And I think I've sat on his lap as a kid when he used to visit us. And thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor to be invited, and thank you so much for the warm introduction. And when Marshal Vartamanji sent me a WhatsApp, I think I should have been faster because that was how excited I was to be part of this. So what I'm going to speak about today is basically how dance has moved me and my relationship with dance, with Bharatanatyam in this case. And I look at it as a long love affair that I've had with dance, and how your relationship with your lover changes over time. So basically, that is what I'm going to speak about, and I'm going to share my experiences and my thoughts with all of you. I want to begin by saying that if there is one thing common between all of you and my clan, it is, I think, the love for our country and the desire to protect it. And I think we just protect it in different ways. We protect it by conserving, preserving, and propagating our cultural heritage. So I want to begin by showing you the typical dancer's salute, the traditional dance salute that we do. So we call it the Namaskaram or the Bhumi Pranamam. So we always stamp on the ground. So the idea is to beg for forgiveness from Mother Earth. So we always start with this salute or Namaskaram when we say Takka Rimmi Takka Jannu Takka Dimmi Takka Jannu Tam. Having done a Bhumi Pranamam, I go on to do a salute to Mother India. And as we all know, that India, this country, has been personified to be a beautiful woman, a sensuous, beauteous woman by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee's song Vande Mataram, and which was set to music by Rabindranath Tagore. I think we all know the meaning, Vande Mataram. I offer my salutations to the motherland, the one who is Sujalam, replete with beautiful waters, Sufalam, replete with luscious fruit, Malayaja Shitalam, complete with dark, thick, fertile ground and fertile plants. Malayaja and Malayaja Shitalam, cool breeze, Sasya Shamalam, dark crops. Shubhra Jyotsna Pulakita Yamini. The dark night is lit by the full bright moon. Fulla Kusumita Drumadala Shobini, the one who is adorned with beautiful blossoming flowers. Suhasini, the one who is ever smiling. Sumadhura Bhashini, the one who is soft spoken. Sukadam Varadam, the one who is the giver of bliss and harmony and happiness. Vande Mataram. I offer my salutations to that mother. I just want to adjust it a little bit, sorry. Yes. Can I just put this on speaker spotlight, if it's possible, so that I have an idea of...
Yes, you can do it from your end. No problem.
All right.
But otherwise, you are clearly visible to all of us.
All right, great. Okay. So, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam, Sufalam, Malayaj Sheetalam, Sasya Shamalam, Mataram, Vande Mataram, Shubhra Jyotsna Pulakitayamini, Fullakusumita Dhrumadhala Shobhini, Suhasini, Sumadhurabhashini, Sukhadam Varadam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. So with that, salute to our motherland. I'd like to begin by saying that I started when I was 6 years old, and I was fortunate to have this prima donna as my guru, Guru Yamini Krishnamurti. And you know how it is initially. Initially, it's just because your mother has, inspired you and prodded you to join the dance classes. So it's just little more than a hobby. Slowly, it grows on to you. And that's what happened to me. And as a teenager, I understood that, yes, I am a little good in this and let me just continue it. But the deal clincher was when I was 19 and I got married to a dancer's son. And she was also a very reputed guru in Delhi, Guru Rama Vaidyanathan. And it was at that age, 19, I decided to take it up professionally as the one and only thing in my life. So my 20s was filled with rigorous dance practices and traveling and performances. But I understood that there is something more to dance than just moving your limbs and interpreting poetry and sweating it out and putting on makeup and wearing beautiful Kanjivaram costumes and Tanjore jewelry. There's something more to it. There's a larger picture involved in it. And it was only when I was in my early 30s when I went to Russia and I was a part of the ICCR delegation, and they were celebrating, I think, 60 years of friendship between India and Russia. And I was in this huge theater filled with about 2,000 seats and packed to capacity, and heads of state from our country and their country, they were all sitting. And it was a very grand performance. And after the performance was over, everybody stood up and they gave me a standing ovation. And I said, Namaskaram. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yes, this is it. I've made it. I've become the big dancer, the great dancer, the famous dancer that I yearn to be, that I desire to be, that I've been working for all these years. And I went back to my green room and I was like basking in this glory and feeling so proud about myself and feeling so happy. When a Russian lady came running to me and she said, you know what? I really loved your dance. I was really moved to tears, and she was literally in tears. So I said, thank you. Then she looked at me and she said, what is your name? At that moment, I realized it's got nothing to do with my name. It's got nothing to do with who I am. It's to do with what I represent. It's to do with what I manifest, what I stand for. That's when I realized that the dance is so much bigger than the dancer. The art is so much bigger than the artist. Because art is eternal and this body is going to go away one day, but the art will remain. And during these years, the art is reflecting itself through my body. So I am just an instrument, a medium through which this beautiful age-old traditional art is manifesting itself, is reflecting itself to the world. And that's when I realized that this is so much like our Indian philosophy, which says, I am that and he am I. I am a microscopic representation of that macroscopic consciousness, of that macroscopic presence, of that effulgence. And I am just that one minuscule part of it. I am the small and he is the big. And that's when I realized that dance is the big and I am the small. And that's the day when the passionate love affair that I was having with my lover turned to an extreme sense of surrender and devotion and reverence. And from that day, I myself saw a change in my own dance, in my own perspectives, especially when I was choreographing. So, this is one lesson that I always teach my students before I even start teaching them Taiya Tai and the steps. That the right attitude towards the dance form is absolutely essential. And from then began my spiritual awakening process, a process of self exploration, of understanding yourself to become a better human being and using dance as a medium. Then I realized there have been so many saints through centuries and generations that have used dance as a medium of elevating their soul. Rumi danced his way to spiritual consciousness. Mirabai danced. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced. So the whole process of dance and surrender is not only about the physicality of dance. I understood it is about what your soul feels and what your inner consciousness feels. And it is about your inner consciousness that dances. That is why in our country, especially in classical dance, as the dancer grows older, she marinates the dance so beautifully that you are able to look at even an 80-year-old Vaijanti Mala dance and get moved and have that rasanubhava of what she is trying to portray. But that's not the case in a Western ballet because there is a lot of physicality to their dance. So I understood that it is more about the mind and the soul. Yes, about the body also, but it is the balance that we need to make. So now I want to come to this man who is standing behind me, Nataraja, and we all know him. Nataraja, Lord of Dance. So obviously he is the one we pray to and we hold him as the Lord of Dance. But there is a deep, very, very beautiful significance to the Nataraja, which we bring to our dance. And I'm sure all of you know it, but I just want to describe it through the dance way. So he has his right hand in the constant Abhaya Hasta, constant protection mudra, and he has his right leg firmly entrenched on the demon Muyalakan, signifying that you have to subjugate your ego and bring down your ignorance, and only then will you reach towards spiritual upliftment. So that is why the left leg and the left hand point towards the cosmos. And I think that is the biggest lesson that we can learn from this iconography. The other two hands, one is holding the drum and the other is holding the fire. The drum is a symbolism, symbolic of primeval sound, which is nature, which is creation, and fire symbolizes dissolution. So he creates this crucial balance of creation and dissolution, of creating and finishing it off and then creating it again. And we all know the physics theory that matter can never be created or destroyed. It only changes its form. That's exactly what Lord Nataraja represents. He represents this whole universe, the dance of this universe, where everything gets created and dissolved. Because if you don't dissolve, you cannot create. If you don't create, you do not dissolve. Then the sun has to set and only then it will come up the next day. For example, the petals of the flower have to wither and fall away for the fruit to emerge. So that whole process of the petals withering and falling away is dissolution, and the fruit coming up is creation. So Nataraja represents that crucial balance of creation and dissolution in this universe. And so he is supposed to be the cosmic dancer because his dance represents the cosmic dance of the universe. Everything in this universe is engaged in the act of dance. When we are born, the first introduction to dance is our heartbeat. That rhythmic activity that happens in our body is dance. And when we come into this universe, everything is dance because the cycle of night and day, the cycle of seasons, the earth rotating and revolving, the trees moving, the bee moving on top of the flower, the peacock dancing, the elephant walking, even that small worm moving is dance. And Nataraja represents that cosmic dance. That is why we call him the one who does the Ananda Tandavam. And this is where I want to bring to your notice a very beautiful verse written by a Tamil saint, Tirumular, in the Tirumandiram. He said, it's a 3rd century text. He said, Tattuvamada Sadashivam Tanada, Chittavumada Shiva Shakti Tanada, Vaita Charachara Mada Marayada, Attanu Madinan Ananda Kute. Attanu Madinan Ananda Kute. I love this word Ananda Kute, blissful chaos. And that's exactly what Lord Nataraja represents in this universe. Everything is dancing in tandem with each other, and it is blissful chaos. And when I, minuscule, this little body, I stand on a stage, whether it is a rural school in Chhattisgarh or the Madras Music Academy, or the World Music Institute in New York, wherever I am, I am a minuscule part of that huge cosmic dance where everything moves. Tattuvamada Sadashivam Tanada, Chittavumada Shiva Shakti Tanada, Vaita Charachara Mada Marayada, Attanu Madinan Ananda Kute. Tattuvamada Sadashivam Tanada, ಚಿತ್ತವು ಮಾಡ ಶಿವ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತಾನಾಡ ವೈತ ಚರಾಚರ ಮಾಡ ಮರೆಯಾಡ ಅತ್ತನು ಮಾಡಿ ನಾನ್ ಆನಂದ ಕೂತೇ ತತ್ತುವ ಮಾಡ ಸದಾಶಿವಂ ತಾನಾಡ ಚಿತ್ತವು ಮಾಡ ಶಿವ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತಾನಾಡ ವೈತ ಚರಾಚರ ಮಾಡ ಮರೆಯಾಡ ಅತ್ತನು ಮಾಡಿ ನಾನ್ ಆನಂದ ಕೂತೇ ತತ್ತುವ ಮಾಡ ಸದಾಶಿವಂ ತಾನಾಡ ಚಿತ್ತವು ಮಾಡ ಶಿವ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತಾನಾಡ ವೈತ ಚರಾಚರ ಮಾಡ ಮರೆಯಾಡ ಅತ್ತನು ಮಾಡಿ ನಾನ್ ಆನಂದ ಕೂತೇ ತತ್ತುವ ಮಾಡ ಸದಾಶಿವಂ ತಾನಾಡ ಚಿತ್ತವು ಮಾಡ ಶಿವ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತಾನಾಡ ವೈತ ಚರಾಚರ ಮಾಡ ಮರೆಯಾಡ ಅತ್ತನು ಮಾಡಿ ನಾನ್ ಆನಂದ ಕೂತೇ ತತ್ತುವ ಮಾಡ ಸದಾಶಿವಂ ತಾನಾಡ ಚಿತ್ತವು ಮಾಡ ಶಿವ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತಾನಾಡ ವೈತ ಚರಾಚರ ಮಾಡ ಮರೆಯಾಡ ಅತ್ತನು ಮಾಡಿ ನಾನ್ ಆನಂದ ಕೂತೇ ತತ್ತುವ ಮಾಡ ಸದಾಶಿವಂ ತಾನಾಡ ಚಿತ್ತವು ಮಾಡ ಶಿವ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತಾನಾಡ ವೈತ ಚರಾಚರ ಮಾಡ ಮರೆಯಾಡ ಅತ್ತನು ಮಾಡಿ ನಾನ್ ಆನಂದ ಕೂತೇ ಅತ್ತನು ಮಾಡಿ ನಾನ್ ಆನಂದ ಕೂತೇ. So it's all very nice to understand that Bharatanatyam is a medium of spiritual exploration. But then it's also important to adhere to the rules. How do you make that balance? Because we know that this is a 2,000-year-old tradition. The first reference of the dancing courtesan was in one of the earliest Tamil texts, the Tolkappiyam, which spoke about the courtesan who danced in the court and also in the temple. And then, of course, we have the Silappatikaram, the 6th century text, which speaks about Madhavi, the courtesan. And then, of course, we have inscriptions of the Brihadishwara temple, where there were 400 Devadasis in the payroll of Rajarajendra when he was the king. That was the kind of patronage that was given to the dancers who were temple dancers and court dancers. They would dance in the court and they would also dance in the temple during the ceremonies of the temple. We all know about what happened to them later during the British rule. The patronage came down. Even now, dance needs patronage, right? Madras Music Academy has to patronize. The cultural department of the government has to patronize. Reliance or the corporate has to patronize. So there is patronage required. So when the kings lost and the temples lost all their money with the British rule, there was no patronage. And the Devadasi system had to go into doldrums. And then there was also the abolishment of the Devadasi Act. And it is only in the early 1930s that the Devadasis were actually resurrected and brought to in Chennai in the public proscenium for the first time. And since then, Bharatanatyam has grown to be one of the most beautifully, globally accepted dance forms all over the world. So we have this strict grammar, this codified structure, and the book that we follow is the Natya Shastra, that is the treatise we follow, written by Bharatamuni, which is again a 2,000-year-old text. We also follow the Abhinaya Darpana, written by Abhinava Gupta. So many people ask me, it is such a strict, codified, structured system. So don't you get restricted? Don't you feel constricted? And my answer always is, actually, it only liberates me. Everything in Bharatanatyam is liberating. It helps you to push boundaries. It helps you to expand your canvas. It helps you to open your soul and represent the universe within you when you dance. I feel it's like a well, and every day I put my hand into the well and come out with beautiful jewels. And every time, every day, trust me, the jewels are different. So there is a solid training, a classroom training that I call it, that we go through. And I think we need to go through it for at least 10 to 15 years. So basically, you spend the first 10 years learning the grammar. You learn the next 10 years internalizing the grammar. And then it's only then you make the dance your own. And then you give your individualistic touch to the to your training. And let's not forget, this is an oral tradition. This is not something I learned from books and computers. This is something I learned from my guru's mouth, by sitting at her feet, by just watching her. Some days there would be no class. She would just say, "Na iniki rehearsal pandra ni ukkandu paru." So we would just sit and just watch her for 4 hours, just practicing. That was the class that day. And then we would watch her by tagging along with her for her performances. Watch her, do her makeup, how she reacts with musicians, how she dances on stage. So these are all things that you learn from your guru. And then after you've learned what you learned in your classroom, you need to take dance out of the classroom. And that's when you start talking to your dance, and that's when it starts becoming your sahodran or sahodri in your journey of spiritual realization. So it's all about imagination, but also adhering to the basics, to the core principles. So I say it's about balance. And look at Nataraja. All the time he's telling us dance is about balance, because he himself is standing on one leg all the time and he never loses his balance. So dance is all about balance. It's about representing the tradition, but also bringing in your own individualistic innovations. Because tradition cannot be in the museum like a museum piece. Tradition has to pulsate, it has to thrive, it has to, all the time be strong and alive, and it has to move like the river. And that can happen only with imagination. So this is where I come to the Rasa Theory, which is the most beautiful and most vital aspect of Indian classical dance, of bhava and rasa. So when I show a bhava, I invest in it. So because when I show fear, I'm showing fear. But am I really scared? I'm not really scared, but I'm showing fear. So I have this ability to feel a fearless fear. When I show pain, it's paining, I'm showing pain. I have this ability to show a painless pain. So what is that? What is that moment? It's a moment of meditation. It's a moment of equanimity that I get into body, mind, and soul. And it is actually a beautiful space, a parallel reality that we get into, where we can show anything. We can show love, hatred, jealousy, fear. But it is a space filled with only love and surrender. There is actually no hate and fear and jealousy in that space. It's a very divine space. It's a meditative and addictive, if I may say so. It's a space that we get into. And that's what we call Satvika Binaya. It's a space that we get into when we show the bhava. So when I show the bhava and I've invested in it, my spectator gets a feeling of what I show, and that is called rasa. So I transmit my bhava in the form of rasa to him, which is why we feel that dance transcends boundaries of language and culture and nationalities and religions because of the bhava rasa theory. Because whatever I do, I'm able to transmit the meaning. But I have to invest in it properly. Because, for example, when I show the full moon, unless I see my moon, my audience is not going to see it. So that is the investment in bhava that I need to make. For example, I'll explain this with an example. There is this beautiful line written by Mirabai, in this Padavali, which she says, Juk aire badariya savan ki. She says, oh my, look at the dark clouds that come looming down in the during the monsoon time. This is just one line. Juk aire badariya savan ki. What all can I show that Mirabai saying? Mirabai, dark clouds. Krishna is also dark. So when I see the dark clouds, I remember Krishna. I remember Krishna's body, which is of the same hue as that of the dark clouds. And she's filled with a sense of longing when she sees the dark clouds. And then when the rains come down, how am I able to communicate to my audience that there is rain? There is no set. There is no, like in movies, there is real rain, we show. There is no painting of rain. We don't have anything else. It's just me and the space around me. That is what I have to create. That is bhava and rasa. Juk ai re badariya savan ki. 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 So this was just one line, and how I embroider and build up with just this one line. We call this Sanchari Bhava. And again, like I said, it's imagination. So how we can treat the same line in different ways. Another example of Sanchari Bhava is this heroine who is in love with Lord Shiva. She's talking to her friend and she says, "Come to me, listen to what I have to tell you because I'm in love with him. I want to tell you that can you please go and take my message of love to him? I love him very much. Will you go and tell him that?" So it's a line in Telugu. Ra ve na mata veenu. Please come, oh friend. My words. Won't you listen to me? Now, I understand how do I do this? If I have to do this, say, 25 times, I can't do this the same time. Oh, friend, come to me. Please listen to what I have to say. Oh, friend, come to me. Please listen to what I have to say. Oh, friend, come to me. No, that's not what we do even when we talk. Even when we talk, we do it in different ways. Hey, friend, come to me. Hey, please come to me. No. Hey, Vadinga, what is your problem? Why aren't you coming to me? Hey, have you forgotten that we were very good friends when we were kids? We used to share things. You've forgotten. Hey, please come. I want to tell you a secret. Please. So, this is how we talk, right? How do I translate that into dance? That is what we call Sanchari Bhava. Ra, ve, na, mata, Venura, 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 ve, na, mata, Venu. So, very soon I realized in my journey, in my relationship with dance, that, it's a misnomer that people say, oh, this child is not hardworking, this child is not intelligent, let's put him into dance, let's put her into dance. No, I think dancers have to be extremely intelligent and extremely alert and extremely educated. And they have to be aware of the socio and political world around them. They cannot have a microscopic vision of life. They cannot be living under a rock. They need to have a very, very, very broad, very, very vast vision of life. And it's extremely important to have that kind of discipline in life. And also noticing. I started noticing the vigrahams in temples, like the Meenakshi Vigraham, the way she would stand with the bend of her hips, the way she would hold the 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 parakeet in her hand, and the smile on her face. So as a dancer, I have to be sensitive to everything that is aesthetic and beautiful around me. And not just aesthetic and beautiful, everything that evokes emotion, even war, even pandemics, should affect me as a human being. And I have to reflect it in my dance. During the pandemic, I made a small piece on respecting the health workers at a time when health workers were being targeted. So I did a little video on that. So you have to be sensitive to the world around you. You have to, when there's a wind, you have to see how the movement of the tree is. You have to see how the bird is chirping. Even when you're seeing a peacock, you have to notice how it is spreading its feathers. How many miniature paintings have inspired me and helped me in my dance? The expressions of the characters, the stance, even this that I did just now, Juk Aire. I have seen a miniature painting of Mirabai holding her gungat like this and looking up. So I incorporate it into my dance. Sculpture, painting, music, drama, theater, poetry, literature, everything I have to be aware of, and I have to inculcate it and incorporate it into my dance, because only then can I be a complete dancer and allow myself to represent the universe. I always feel that a dancer represents the universe. I know it's a very big statement, but I feel that's what it is, because Attanu Madina Ananda Kute, I am representing that blissful chaos. So I think I can go on and on, but I would like to stop here and love to take questions from all of you.
Thank you, Rama. That was simply a great talk. You explained so many nuances of the Bharatanatyam, which I am sure many of us may not be aware of. Really, you kept us all in a rapt attention. Now we start the question and answer session. I have a few questions from my side. So, you were under the tutelage of Yamini Krishnamurti and Saroja Vaidyanathan. Tell us some of your fond memories with them.
Okay, with Yamini Amma, as you know, that when I started learning from her in 1975, she was in the peak of her career. She was a very, very busy performing artist. And but somehow she was very, very fond of me. And I used to be this over-enthusiastic, over-zealous student, always wanting to be standing in the front and under her nose. Sometimes she would say, Talli nille, she would say. Like I would be standing right in front of her and I would want her to have eyes only for me. That was really very selfish of me, but that's how I was. So one day what happened, she started teaching one of the basic pieces, which is called Allaripu. And the other students had already learnt it somewhere in some other class. So, and I had not learnt it. And she said, okay, you all know it. Okay, let me see how you're doing it. And the other students started doing it. And I had no clue of what was happening. And I was extremely hurt and disappointed. And I slowly retracted to the back of the classroom and I started crying. And I think I was 7 years old. I started crying and she noticed. And then she called me, Papa, alagardu, inga va, she called me. And she put me on her lap, and she said, I will teach you everything myself. Ni arade. So I really remember that. And now she's very old, she's 80 plus. But when I go to her and I speak to her, she always remembers this. And an incident about my mother-in-law. Her name is Saroja Vaidyanathan. She's a Padma Bhushan awardee. And so Vaidyanathan, as you know, is supposed to be from the Iyer caste. And I am from the Nair family from Kerala. So so this was many years ago, more than 32, 33 years ago, when her son wanted to marry me, some people did go up to her and say that, how come you're allowing your son to marry a non-Brahmin? Because my mother-in-law has two sons, and the older son went and married an American woman. So obviously they were expecting the second one to marry a Brahmin girl, but that didn't happen. And he fell in love with this Nair Kshatriya girl from Kerala, whose father was in the army. So people did go up to her and say, why, I mean, why are you saying yes to this match? She's not of your caste. So my mother-in-law turned around and she said the biggest dialogue of her life. She said, who said she's not of my caste? She is of my caste. She's a dancer and I'm a dancer. We both are dancers. We are of the same caste. And that was the clinching deal of my relationship with my mother-in-law. And that is the fond memories that I have with both of them.
Real nice fond memories you have of your gurus. Okay, now you have been acknowledged for experimenting and exploring within the traditional framework. Can you tell us as to when and why you felt the need to experiment?
Okay, so the thing is, I really don't think I'm doing anything new. I feel I'm just discovering what is already there. It's already there in the whole ethos, in the whole gambit and in that well. It's all there. I am just discovering it, and it is reflecting itself, manifesting itself through my body at this point. So it is something that comes naturally. It doesn't come overnight. It's like a seed that grows within you, and then it's like a pregnant woman. After 9 months, she has to release the baby out of her body. So it grows inside you, this whole creative process, and then you want to nurture it, you want to enrich it, and then it becomes big, and then it finally finds fruit. When you release it out of your body, it becomes your baby. And so that is how this has been happening. And I've been doing it from a very, very young age. I have been choreographing my own compositions since I was 20 years old. I've choreographed Sangam poetry. I've choreographed Divya Prabandham poems. I've choreographed Rumi's poetry. I've done a whole range of languages and traditions that I have dabbled with.
Okay. Now, coming to sadhana, do you still practice every day?
Oh, yes, of course. There is absolutely no way without it, because it is a stamina that you need to build up. And it is a physical and emotional tenacity that you need to build and sustain. That's most important. You need to sustain it. But as you grow older, you understand that your body is not as it was while you were in your 20s. But your mind has become more mature than what it was in your 20s. So the balance kind of changes, tilts in a different way, but the balance is maintained. Like Nataraja, the balance is always maintained. So it is important to do that sadhana on a daily basis.
Okay, ma'am. Now, 2020, the year gone by, has been a turbulent one for all of us. And as an artist, you also must have missed out on your live dance performances. How did you cope up with this lockdown? Did you do any special online classes or did you do any special experimentation during this period?
Okay. So the thing is, before the lockdown, the last 25 years of my life, I have literally been living out of a suitcase. That is how busy I was traveling. Traveling, and that's what my life was, catching flights and trains and buses and rehearsals and light and sound tech checks in the theater and green rooms and hotels, and that was my life. And of course, I was also actively teaching some workshops and classes. I just don't take classes in Delhi. I also take classes in Chennai and Bangalore and Bombay and Calcutta, and of course, all over the world. I used to travel to the US twice a year, to Europe once a year, to East Asia, Malaysia, Singapore once a year. This was like my basic. And then on top of that, to the Middle East. So all this was happening. So if you ask me, the lockdown was absolute bliss for me, because to get into my studio to dance without an agenda and without a deadline, that I have to finish this rehearsal, I have to finish this composition because I have to premiere it at such and such place, at such and such festival. I have to go for the Khajuraho festival, so I have to perform this there. There was no agenda. So there was this open-endedness when I would enter my studio. So that was again another relationship I had with my dance. It was like, you suddenly have me time with your lover in one obscure island when you're alone with your lover, nobody to disturb you. So that is exactly what I felt. So I was in complete bliss, and it allowed me to work on my dance in a very different way. I choreographed some 4, 5 new compositions. I I had a different perspective of very, very different poetry. And I read a lot, but I had a lot more time to read. And most importantly, I had a lot of time for my classes. So I'm still doing a lot of online classes. And I think my students are seeing me more than they saw me in the last 10 years, because now I'm stuck to one city and I'm here. So actually, it has been bliss. And I've also had time to spend time with my family. So I've enjoyed it.
That's great. That's great. Okay, I have one more question from my side before the other members will ask a question or I read out the questions in the chat box to you. Now, the question that I have for you is that does the gender of a dancer impact the dance? The gender of a dancer. What are your thoughts?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. Yeah. The thing is, I believe dance transcends all kinds of boundaries, whether it is religion or nationality or language, all kinds of boundaries. So it also transcends the boundaries of gender. Now, I have a female body, but I am able to show Shiva's Tandava or Ravana's cruelty. Similarly, a male dancer should be able to show Radha's love. Many years ago, I watched Kelucharan Mahapatra, the great Odissi guru, do a beautiful Ashtapati of Radha longing. I forgot this old bald man with pan chewed teeth, and some teeth even missing when he was very old. I just forgot all that. What I saw was Radha. So I feel that when I dance, I have to get out of my female body. It is the soul that has to dance. So I should not be worried about how beautiful I'm looking, how beautiful is my figure, is my face looking pretty. I have to get out of these physicalities of the body, and I have to get into more into my inner soul that is expressing. So absolutely, dance has to transcend. And nowadays, we have so many fantastic male dancers who are actually transcending all of that and are emoting poetry, love, erotic poetry of the alvars, of love and longing. And they do it so beautifully and so convincingly, becoming the Naika. So I think it transcends, it has to transcend the body. And I also feel that every woman has a male inside, every male has a woman inside it. And it is the dancer's job to bring it out in the correct balance when the time, as and when the time comes.
Great answer. Now we'll just take up a couple of questions which are there from our viewers in the chat box. The first one I have is from Wing Commander Arun Kumar. Now the question is, it is said that sage Agastya compiled the aspects of fine arts. Anything known about this? Connected to this, is Natya Sastra available in document form?
So sage Agastya was almost mythological, and Bharata is prehistoric. That is the perspective that we need to have. Now, we believe that there was no one Bharata. The Natya Shastra was compiled by several Bharatas, several sages, several scholars of dance. And what Agastya Muni did was just kind of express the importance of creative expression, whether it is music, dance, drama, theater, painting, sculpture. All these are creative expressions. But it was Bharata or Bharatas who actually codified them and brought them all into a treatise. And yes, the Natya Shastra has been translated into almost all the languages of the world. And it is available, Bharat Gupt, Bharat Gupt, Bharat Gupt's translation is considered one of the best of the Natya Shastra, and it is available freely. So, and it just doesn't talk about dance. It talks about drama, theater, because initially everything was one. People used to sing and dance and wear costumes and be the character, and everything was one. It is only later that drama, music, and dance became three separate aspects of creative expression. So that's it.
Okay, ma'am. The next question in the chat box we have is from Mrs. Rukmani Gopal. What is the difference between different schools, say Tanjore style or the Vadavur style? What are the difference?
So it was these Ishai Velalar community, the traditional community gurus who came from different parts of Tamil Nadu. So when they came from Tanjavur, it was called Tanjavur style. They came from Pandanallur. So it was just, the name was given on the basis of from where they came from in Tamil Nadu. So they started teaching young girls from the so-called privileged or Brahmin community in those days in Tamil Nadu. And it is they who started teaching them. And that particular style of that guru was in an oral tradition passed on to that student. So that was called that Bani, Tanjavur Bani. And Pandanallur, for example, Pandanallur Meenakshi Sundaram Pillai or Varuvar Ramaya Pillai, when he taught, it became the Varuvar style. When Pandanallur Meenakshi Sundaram Pillai taught, it became the Pandanallur style. So it just became the hallmark of that particular guru. So the basics were all the same. It is just like, the dialects of Tamil change, when you go from one district to the other, it was just a little different. And that individualistic quality of that guru was instilled in that specific style. But do you know, 2 years ago in Kalakshetra, there was a conference on Banis, and each and every guru and practitioner of each and every Bani that you could think of, whether it was Mysore Bani, all Melattur Banis, all Banis, gurus came and they spoke, and there were scholars who interacted. You know what was the conclusion at the end of the conference? The conclusion was there are actually only two Banis in dance: good Bani and bad Bani, good dance and bad dance. At the end of the day, that is what it is. So basically, Bani was just an initial thing, because let's understand that Bharatanatyam came into perspective only a little more than 100 years ago, proper Bharatanatyam. So at that time, it was necessary to give these specific names for identification. But now there has been a very beautiful osmosis, a very beautiful synergizing of, because I myself come from two Banis. From Yamini Amma had a different Bani, and Amma, my mother-in-law, had a different Bani. But I have synergized both together to create my own Bani. So I feel every dancer has their own Bani.
Thank you.
Great. Now, one question from my side. Do you have critics? How do you deal with them?
Okay, so yes, I think it is very, very important to pay attention and heed to what critics say. And you know, in the creative world, everything is very objective and subjective. It's not like a cricket match. Either you won it or you've lost it. So in the artistic world, some people may like the interpretation, some people may not like the interpretation, some people may like, oh, you know, you could have done it this way. So there's always that aspect of, you know, gray area, because it's like I said, it's not a match that you've won or you've lost. So, and you have to understand that you cannot please everybody. And it is a creative instinct that you surrender to at the end of the day. But it is important to maintain levels of excellence. In the name of creativity and innovation and freedom of expression, one cannot tamper with the core principles of dance and with what the dance stands for. And then if you cross that line and you get criticized for it, you deserve it. So yes, I have been criticized for my work, not for what I said just now, not for not upholding levels of excellence, but for interpretations, you know. But I think you need to take risks. If you don't take risks, you can never success. You can never get success, I feel, because when you take risks, yes, you can fall flat on your face, but only when you fall flat on your face can you get up and take the risk again without making the past mistake. So I have made a few mistakes in my creative innovations, and I've got criticized for it, but I've learned it and learned from my mistakes, and I've become better. So I think I do not regret it at all. I do not regret falling flat on my face at all, because I know I have to take risks. It's very easy to be in the comfort zone and be cozy in your comfort zone and just keep doing what your guru has taught you. You know, what you just replicate the classroom onto the stage. But if you really want to fly and have a larger vision of dance, you have to take dance out of the classroom. And for that, you have to take risks, and then you have to face the music.
I have a question.
Good. Yes,
Yes.
Pramila ma'am, go ahead.
Rama, you spoke about the different banis and how people are interpreting dance in a different, each person chooses a way of interpretation. Now, what do you think of the modern dance dramas that are coming up now, with a whole lot of free movement on the stage, a lot of yoga incorporated in the movements, along with traditional Bharatanatyam steps. The whole thing, at times, it comes as a cohesive whole, but very often it seems discordant to the viewer. What is your take on this aspect of modern interpretation?
Okay. I feel you can never ever curb creative instincts. You can never curb it. You may say that you don't like it. Then if I don't like something, then I will just not go for it. Nobody's forcing me to go and watch it. So if I don't like a particular performer's interpretation or a particular performer's artistic choices, if I don't like it, if it is not my cup of tea, I may not go for it. Or maybe even if it is not my cup of tea, maybe even if it is not something I would do, but I can still appreciate it. Many times I have appreciated artistic preferences, artistic choices of dancers, which I may never make those choices, but I have enjoyed it, and I have gone and greeted them. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we cannot curb it. It is just part of evolution, and it has to go on. I mean, the Devatasi in the 19th century actually danced to a Western song or a tumri because a singer from the north came. At that time, it may have been considered blasphemy that you've left the solid Tamil Tamil and Telugu texts, and Carnatic music, and you've gone and danced to a Western music because of the Western musicians who were present in the Madras presidency at that time. They were all there, so that happened at that time. So what I'm trying to say is there has always been. It is not now that there has been experimentation or people who walked out of the boundaries. Since time immemorial, from the time art has begun, people have started experimenting and moving out of the boundaries. For us, we feel that this is moving out of the boundaries. After 100 years, this would be the norm. So I think this is just part of evolution and a creative process that we can never, ever subjugate.
Then what happens to the purity of the medium then?
Yes, very, very good question. Now, the thing is, each dancer to her own. There are a lot of dancers. Now, like I said, every dancer is not doing that, right? There are a lot of dancers who are completely sticking to the traditional margam and performing the absolute traditional style that the dance form has been coming down through the ages. So, but this is also happening. Now, just because this is happening, now they both can survive, is what I'm trying to say. This can also survive and that can also survive. And it's been more than 100 years, but the traditional Bharatanatyam Margam still holds a full house in the Madras Music Academy or the Nardagana Sabha in Chennai or in the Bharati Vidya Bhavan in Mylapore. So I have full confidence that the purity of the dance form will never be compromised with.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wing Commander Ravi Shankar has got a question for you. After that, Mrs. Shobha Varthaman. Ravi, go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Harsha. Ma'am, my question is not necessarily pertaining only to the art form of Bharatanatyam. It is art overall. I am a very active follower of the Chola dynasty and their contribution to culture in Tamil Nadu. And when I visited the Tanjore temple, I've had the privilege of getting to see the 83 mudras that Rajaraja Chola, the great Rajaraja Chola, had intended. And he had intended to do 108 of them, but he had to discontinue for whatever reasons. It stopped at 83. Now, my specific question on this is, with the maturity of the art form today that we have here today, as also the influence of very senior artists like you on the scene, can the experts get together and complete those 108 mudras? Because somehow that it leaves a big vacuum there. He intended 108, and those places are still blank. This is something that we can complete contemporarily today.
Are you talking about the 108 mudras or 108 karanas?
Ma'am, I may be using a wrong term here. You'll have to bear with me. Probably it is karanas, and there are
Yes.
different poses, but I don't know whether
Yes.
they are mudras or karanas. I'm so sorry
No,
if
they're
I
called
said it wrong.
karanas. They're called karanas. 108 karanas, 108 poses of Nataraja, of Shiva.
Yeah.
And each karana is not a statue, but a movement which gets frozen at one point of time. So that's why you have, so many arms, because it is this, and finally this. So that is the karana. So that is a freeze. That is a freeze in a moment, in a sequence of movements. That is what is a karana. And Dr. Padma Subramaniam and lot of research in this, and she has actually gone into the Chidambaram temple, into the unknown alcoves above the Gopuram, and she has discovered these karanas, and she has recreated the 108 karanas. In fact, any book on Bharatanatyam will have the 108 karanas.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Mrs. Shobha, ma'am, your question, please.
Thank you, Harsha. Rama, Namaskaram. And,
Namaskaram.
before I ask my question, I'd like to just share a few things with you and to the audience. Like, I have the reflected glory of having studied under the same guru as Saroja Vaidyanathan ji, and we both studied in the same Saraswati Gan Nilayam. But the 11 years of studying dance, and then I stopped and went a different path. The reason why I'm saying this today is we have grandfathers, we have parents, is that, I wondered many a times. I have not continued dancing, but how has it helped me? I went into medicine, but I find that it has given me an observation capacity. It has really honed my observation, which is important for a doctor, so much so that I could understand my patients before he would even tell his complaint or his symptoms, actually. And I can gauge and assess the progress. That's one thing. The other thing generally in life is that it made me appreciate art in any form, whether it is music, dance, or paintings, because I come from a Jnanasunyam family, which didn't, but my parents thought that they should make me learn my Bharatanatyam. So much so that, when we go and sit in a performance, I've seen many people being bored, being not coming, getting up halfway through and all. But my having studied Bharatanatyam and got into this has really given me the insight to appreciate art, which is, and also look for the points in a good dancer, like you said, a good dancer, bad dancer, and things like that. And also, understand what they are trying to say. Why I'm saying this is, I guess when you become a senior citizen, you try to give little pointers for good living, and the children shouldn't think that they are wasting their time learning. And I'm sure many of your students are watching the YouTube channel as well. And whatever it is, just take it in your stride, and it'll always help. Nothing is a waste, and this helps. And it has helped me. It has helped me convert my soldier husband also to sit through performances and appreciate the art. And so that's a positive gain, I think. The question I have for you is, like, you talked so much about, you talked about your giving us an insight to spirituality through dance. I wanted to know, how would you express an abstract thing like what is an Atman through dance? Like, it's okay if you show things that is happening in the nature, or an elephant, or event or something, but something which is abstract, like Atman or karma. How would you show these things in a dance? Because when you see the literature like Siva Sindhamani and all those stuff, there's quite a lot of them in that. And I have always wondered how a dancer would express it. So that's my question.
So again, in my relationship with my dance, I have discovered that Bharatanatyam is not just a religiously connected ethnic dance form. It is an art form, and I consider the language of Bharatanatyam to be quite secular. Now, this is quite a statement which may say, oh, but because it originated in the temples, and most of what you do is on Shiva, Parvati, and mythological stories and Indian tenets of Hinduism. But that is only because of the ethos of the dance form, the ethnic part of it. But actually, if you look at it, and more as I look into dance, into Bharatanatyam, I find it to be an extremely versatile and secular. I use the word secular. And when I use the word secular, I use the word abstract concepts, like you said. And when I say abstract, it doesn't only have to be Atman and soul. It can also be Himalayas. It can be global warming. It can be fear of war. It can be anything. It can be. I did Subramani Bharati wrote so many beautiful poems on the freedom struggle. So it can be on the freedom struggle. So the dance form lends itself very beautifully to any and everything, if you ask me. It's just how I do it, how I present it, and not make it look very, very lokadharmi, as we say, the word lokadharmi. What I mean to say is not make it look very direct. It has to be very suggestive and very subtle. And yes, all the concepts that you spoke about, Shobhaji, we can definitely show through dance, and I have shown it through dance simply because the dance allows me. It has the capacity to be harnessed into showing it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. The next question for you is from Brigadier Sridharan. Sridharan, sir, kindly unmute yourself, sir. Unmute yourself first, sir. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Firstly, let me compliment you on your singing. It's excellent. I must say so.
Oh, sorry. No, I just sing very, very normally.
It's not easy to sing when you're dancing. I know that. Number one. One of the most attractive things that I said when I attended the dances these days, especially in the December season, the popular Padavarnam that they all do is Lalguri's Charukesi Varnam, which you must have seen. How is that?
Innum Manam.
Yeah, I attended 3 this one in US concerts where they were the Bharatanatyam Arangetram. In all the 3, without exception, One I attended in San Francisco, one in New Jersey, and another one in San Francisco only. Without Varnam, almost 45 minutes was spent on this Charukesi. What is your take on that? I mean, what is that? That is, he is also got a Padavarnam in Nilambari and other thing. But this particular Charukesi, which is a Varnam, or Padavarnam, what they call it, is really your take on that, please.
Okay. So I'm also guilty to this crime because I have also performed this Varnam. It's just, I think it is a very, very beautiful Varnam. And I think it's a Varnam which children, like Arangetram level dancers, can connect with. I think that is why, because Tanjore Quartet Varnams become a little more complex in layers of meaning. And that is the reason, perhaps. And then, there is a trend that happens. And the trend suddenly is the Charukesi Varnam. And then everybody wants to do the Charukesi Varnam. So I think that's all there is to it. Next year, maybe the trend will be different. So I think that's what it is. It's also a very, very beautiful Varnam. Kuraludum Araga Kanna. It's a very beautiful Varnam. Yes.
The way he has weaved the swaras with that, that's a beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat box from Brigadier V.A. Subramaniam. I'll just read it out to you. What is the contribution of Rukmani Arundel to dance? Rukmani Arundel.
Tremendous and phenomenal. Because she was the example of New India's Bharatanatyam. And she was the one who brought all these traditional community dance gurus who had no work because there were no courts to perform. There were no temples. They didn't get any patronage from temples. So they had no work. She was the one who employed them and got them to teach herself first. And then, of course, established Kalakshetra and brought them to Kalakshetra. And she gave a completely different image to Bharatanatyam. And it was at a time when they felt that Bharatanatyam was only about, they felt that it was about just the traditional community women who were such beautiful, fantastic dancers, but it was only restricted to them. It was initially considered like that. But then she just broke the dam. She said, okay, it's not only, you don't have to be born into the Devadasi traditional family, into the Eshai Valalar community. You don't have to be born there to be practicing Bharatanatyam. You can be anybody and everybody. You can be a French woman in France. You can be a Sardar in Punjab. You can be anybody and you can come to Kalakshetra and you can learn Bharatanatyam. So she literally opened the gates of Bharatanatyam to the world.
Thank you.
Hey, ma'am. Ma'am, what are your thoughts? Are youngsters of today taking up to Bharatanatyam, or what do you feel that needs to be done to develop interest in the minds of youngsters to take up Bharatanatyam?
I think there's tremendous interest. I'm extremely positive about this. And especially now during the pandemic, there was so much of online performances and talks and discussions and young dancers presenting their work. There is so much of energy and they are, so exuberant. I really don't think that we need to be worried in that quarter. There is a lot of interest. And let me tell you, I myself am seeing a difference in the composition of my audience. There are more and more and more younger people constituting the audience.
Okay. Now, you have been involved with Bharatanatyam, let's say, for more than about 3 to 4 decades. how do you still stay inspired?
Oh yeah, that's a very, very key question. Inspiration is extremely important, and one has to look find it everywhere. I can even find it in the pallu of somebody's sari. I will like the pattern, the way the peacock has been made, and how I can translate it into my dance. A song can inspire me. The sound of the thunder can inspire me. A poem can inspire me. A story in a novel can inspire me. Love, longing, surrender, prayer, everything and anything must inspire me. So I think inspiration is something that you need to you need to be ready to catch it wherever you are. You need to catch it. You need to be alert. Like I said, a dancer has to be alert. She has to always have her antennas up, eyes, ears, everything open to look around her, to absorb it and to assimilate it within her, because like I said, she represents the universe when she dances.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's been a real fascinating morning interacting with you today. An hour and 30 minutes has just gone like that. And we're really thankful to you for having spared your time. And we've really understood more and more of Bharatanatyam now. So thank you once again, ma'am. And with that, it's over to Marshal Varthaman for his thoughts. So unmute yourself, please. Some unmute yourself, Vartha sir.
Yeah. Rama, you took us to another world. And, 90 minutes, different world to go altogether. You mesmerized us. And your passion and your love for dance was so visible. Fantastic. I mean, you transformed this morning. Thank you very, very much. I must tell the audience also that her military connection is so strong. We are so proud of you, Rama. And the bond that you have, as you know, her father is an army officer, and Colonel Vishwanathan's coastmate, I think, they're colleagues. Her brother is a retired colonel, and her cousin is married to a group captain. So she's got all Faujis around. And I'm sure they have been a tremendous influence on you, Rama. Your discipline. I've seen you. You lived in our house. I've seen your discipline and the way you conduct yourself. Amazing personality and your passion for the country. And you started it so beautifully. You said, we as soldiers, we are defending the nation, and you are nurturing our heritage and taking our culture beyond the shores. I think you're doing a fantastic job for the country. And the way you feel for the nation is so nice. And the way you contributed, I saw you doing it for AIDS, and now today you're doing it for the frontline workers. So, this kind of passion for the country is astounding.
Nation.
And that's what I keep talking everywhere, putting the nation first. And I think you're an extreme example of always putting the nation first. Now, I must also tell the audience that her daughter, Dakshina, is a brilliant dancer as well. She is going to be the next generation of brilliant dancers who will fly the flag of Rama. So every December she dances here. So you all must look out and go and watch Dakshina's dance.
And right here, I must add that my daughter, Dakshina, is married to a boy who's the son of an air commodore in the Navy.
Yes. And
so I have connections all over.
And who's the coastmate of one of the guys here watching you?
Yes, Air Commodore Amar Singh Baghel's daughter-in-law is my daughter, Dakshina.
So you got total military around you now. The only thing was the Navy was missing, that you incorporated.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. And for a brilliant morning, you made our day. It's unforgettable. It's really unforgettable. On behalf of every one of us here, we thank you for spending so much of time. And our blessings are with you. And maybe, very soon we will hear that the nation recognizes you with a Padma Award. That's our blessings to to you, Rama. And God bless you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Papa, thank you very much.
Please,
Thank you, Uncle.
Very illuminating. And I am now shifted permanently to Bangalore. So please do let me know when you come to Bangalore. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Rama,
Papa.
Thank
please
you.
convey our regards to Saroja ji as well.
I will do
See
that.
her last year. So this year,
Papa Romba
I will do that.
Husband is son of Saroja
and Veena Chechi and Ravi.
I will do that. I will do that.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rama.
Dance too.
I hope you all liked it.